Now, just a little warning before we begin, there are major spoilers ahead for the third episode of Skeleton Crew, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want anything ruined, it is a really, really good time to click away. Alright, so I think I gotta start this out by saying how surprised I am at how much I enjoyed this episode and how much I'm enjoying the series so far. I hate to describe it this way since I feel like everybody is kind of describing this show this way, but it was a lot of fun. There was a great sense of adventure and mystery, and it had a very Star Wars feel to it. Now, I thought the first episode on Ed Atten was a little too Earth-like and kind of not very Star Wars-like in a certain way. Yes, I understand that maybe it kind of captured the spirit of Star Wars, but I don't know about the setting. It just was a little too Earth-like for me. But since then, it has very much been on point. This has felt like Star Wars. This feels more like Star Wars than a lot of the other things we've seen on Disney Plus that are supposed to be in Star Wars. I dare say maybe only The Mandalorian has captured the feeling of Star Wars better than this, or at least on par with this, about the same. This, in some ways, I think maybe even better than that. I've been very surprised at just how good it looks. Now, it doesn't look movie quality or anything quite like that, but the special effects are good. The settings look, again, very Alien and Star Wars-like outside of Ed Atten. And again, it's just been fun. I think the characters, especially in this episode, really started to shine. I think Jude Law did a fantastic job playing Jode Nanawood or Crimson Jack or Captain Cilio or whatever his name is, or a combination of those names. And yeah, the kids were fantastic too. I think they were doing a fine job acting. And even though the first two episodes really, they felt like kind of cliche characters in a kid's show, I think they're really starting to shine. I think they are becoming more and more interesting and settling into their roles a bit better as well. I think maybe SM33 has kind of been the star of the show, the star of the crew thus far. And yeah, there's just been a lot to love about the show so far. Now, we're only 3 episodes in, so I don't want to proclaim this a big hit, a big success. Anything can happen, and I'm not, again, trying to be pessimistic or say I'm predicting something to go off the rails here. In fact, I'm kind of getting excited that this might actually be a really, really good show. I think one of the best parts about it is the fact that there is mystery, there is intrigue, and that has very much hooked me. I would say that, not to compare it to the show because they are light years apart in many different ways, but The Acolyte, which was kind of billed to be a mystery kind of suspense thriller where every week there would be more intrigue and more to follow along and try to solve. This has far more of that than The Acolyte did. I am very much hooked on the mystery of Ed Atten, even though we did get plenty of answers in this episode. Apparently it is one of these treasure planets from the Old Republic or something along those lines, the Gems of the Galaxy, I believe they called them. We also know it was purposely hidden and all the other planets like it were destroyed some way, somehow. I don't know if the planets themselves were destroyed or just the populations of the planets were killed off or what the deal is exactly. We also know that they are completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. We heard from the droids when the parents had the meeting with the droids that communication with the outside galaxy is prohibited. Clearly the kids didn't know that Alderaan, for example, had been destroyed, so they're not getting information from the outside pretty much at all, it seems. I get the feeling that the Great Work is something that was long since abandoned by the Old Republic, that they are just following the program that was set forth many, many years ago. I don't know, perhaps hundreds of years ago. We don't know exactly how long this planet has been hidden, but I think it almost certainly has to do with the credits. Even at one point, Wim kind of was starting to piece together that maybe it was our credits that the pirates thought were, or was the treasure that is rumored to be on this planet. And that was kind of my theory going into this episode, what I talked about before. I think that the treasure the planet holds is the fact that they have the material or the metal that used to make credits for the Old Republic. It's probably very plentiful there. And for whatever reason, at some point they cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy. Maybe they continue to make credits or mint new credits to this day. Perhaps that is the Great Work. They're just creating them and letting them sit there until they are needed and they don't have any clue that they're just not needed anymore, that the rest of the galaxy uses a different form of currency or new credits essentially. It seems like they have a lot of analysts and other similar roles. If you go back to the first episode and listen to the lesson that the kids are being taught, it's about currency, essentially. You have a group of, 10, 11-year-old kids, and you're kind of teaching them about currency, which, it's not totally unusual to teach kids about money. But that particular lesson seemed to be more than, hey, this is how money works. It seemed to be a lot more in depth. And then you had the kids who wanted to talk about what they want to be when they grow up. And one is like, I want to be an analyst. And the supervisor to the or I think she was the undersecretary to the supervisor. I think that was her role, and something tells me the supervisor is probably some sort of droid or something that has been in place and is following the great work, the program that was, well, programmed into him a long time ago. And they don't really realize that, again, whatever they are doing on this planet has long since become kind of obsolete because they are not getting communication from the outside anymore. They don't know that the Republic that they think is still out there has been destroyed and became the Empire and has become a new Republic. So yeah, I think they are very much just in the dark. The undersecretary even said how they need all the analysts they can get because that's just what they do. They analyze their currency or something along those lines. I don't think that is exactly it, but they seem to do something that, again, has probably become obsolete over time and they simply don't realize it, and they have a planet that appears to be a nebula. That is what the barrier is. It simply masks them from the rest of the galaxy, and there were once many other planets just like it. But anyway, kind of moving on from that, we learned in this episode that Jod Nanawood is not a Jedi, or Crimson Jack, again, whatever his name technically is. Though he does seem to do things that are maybe Force abilities, unless it is kind of trickery, which was suggested in this episode. One of the kids pointed out that perhaps he has magnets or strings or mirrors or something that he is using, and when you watch it, it just doesn't feel quite like what we have seen Jedi or other Force users do before when they use it. So I almost do feel like he has some sort of device he is able to use. Now, why he was allowed to keep that device while being imprisoned, I don't know. Maybe it is hidden within him, maybe it's in his arm or something, I don't know. But I don't think he can use the Force. I think he is doing some sort of trickery. And either way, he is not a Jedi, which I think most of us kind of figured. Kind of seemed a little too on the nose that he would be a Jedi. I didn't think it was the worst idea that he was perhaps an Order 66 survivor who went into piracy or something like that. I also don't think he is going to end up being a Sith, which was a theory floating around out there before the show started. Either way, like I said, I think Jude Law is doing a fantastic job. He really kind of elevates this show, I think. The kids, again, doing a great job, but they did need that well-seasoned adult actor to really bring the best out of them, I feel. And I think he's doing that. I think there was great interaction between him and the kids, and I'm looking forward to more of it. Just, again, very surprised at how well everything in this show is going or has been done. I am impressed right now. And I'm not trying to sound like I figured the show would be bad or anything like that, but I kind of thought it would be average, and it would be, even if it was bad, it would be kind of benign. It was just something that maybe wasn't great, wasn't bad, but at least it wouldn't be offensive, it wouldn't break the lore or anything like that. But yeah, I just kind of hoped it would be okay, that it would be somewhat enjoyable, and I have been very surprised at just how enjoyable it actually has been, and I hope it continues to go in this direction. I hope it continues to be this good, if not even better, perhaps. I also know that there was some quote-unquote controversy going into this episode, that this was supposed to be the woke episode because one of the kids, KD, would have two moms, and that was supposed to like derail the whole show or something like that. It was supposed to be really, really bad, or I don't know. And though I'm not saying Disney and Lucasfilm don't ever have any sort of agenda, I wouldn't really say this was anything of the sort. They didn't really make a big deal out of it. It's not like there was this big flashing sign that said, look, she has two moms and you have to love that or something. It just was. It just was the reality of this character. And it is the reality of many kids on our planet right now that they have two moms or two dads or whatever. And yeah, that's just life, both here and apparently on At-Atten. And it wasn't really a big deal. So yeah, to wrap things up here, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm surprised, again, at how much I enjoyed it. I am on board with Skeleton Crew. I think the kids are doing great. Jude Law is doing great. I think the music is maybe not the highlight of the show, but it certainly works for what it is. It looks pretty dang good. It doesn't look fantastic. Again, I don't think this is movie quality. I don't think it has the greatest or biggest budget ever, but it looks good for what it is. We have lots of different planets we seem to be going to. Different locations, different aliens. How cool is it to have just different aliens in a show? That not 90% of the people we run into are humans. That is great to see alien characters in Star Wars. What a crazy concept that is. And yeah, it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. Now, certainly I like things like Andor as well that are a little deeper, a little darker, a little more profound, a little more to sink your teeth into. But not everything Star Wars needs to be Andor. Certainly we can have more like Andor in the future, and we can have more Skeleton Crew-like shows in the future. We can have a diverse array of shows and movies going forward. I think that is the best way to handle Star Wars, honestly. That's the best way to grow your audience and keep your audience happy, to realize that no, not every show is necessarily going to be tailored exactly to your wants and desires, but that it can still be fun, it can still be enjoyable, and that maybe the next show will be something more your style. But quite honestly, if you're not watching this and you watched this review, I very much recommend it, and I can only hope it continues on this trend and becomes maybe one of the best Star Wars shows on Disney Plus thus far. Well, that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell me what you thought of this third episode of Skeleton Crew. Are you enjoying it? Are you maybe not enjoying it? And if you're not, tell us why. But whatever the case may be, leave a comment below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.